Let's talk about the best value in comics. Welcome back to Comics Are Dope. I'm BJ Kicks, and one thing that I hear a lot about comics is how they're expensive. And I don't just hear it, I experience this every single week. If you watch my series called The Pull List, you know how tough it is for me to stay under my budget of $50 every week when there are tons and tons of amazing books coming out, right? So just quick example. This is the Miles Morales Spider-Man, the 2024 annual. Really like this issue. This issue had a cover price of $4.99, although most issues of Miles Morales Spider-Man have a cover price of $3.99, and that's cool, right? But a lot of other issues, most issues in fact, of Marvel and DC Comics for that matter, have a price of $4.99, right? But there's other ways that you can collect these stories, right? We've seen companies or publishers playing around with different formats all the time. We've seen these digest-sized books that you can get for like $10, $12 in most cases. You'll see something like this. This is just your typical trade paperback. This is Ultimate Spider-Man. It actually came out today as I'm filming this. So this collects the first 6 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, written by Jonathan Hickman, with art by Marco Cacchetto. And this, for those 6 issues, you get this for $19.99 in the United States here. So that's already a savings. We would have spent the same price on 4 issues of the Ultimate Spider-Man, but we got 6 in this trade paperback, but we had to wait a little bit for it, right? Same deal with this. This is Spider-Punk Arms Race. This is by Cody Ziegler, the same guy who's writing Miles Morales right now. This is a 4-issue miniseries. This collects the whole 4 issues for $15.99. So again, about $4 an issue. Not bad for the whole miniseries in this nice little package. And this actually just wrapped up like super recently. So if you're willing to trade weight, you can definitely get a bit of a deal. But is that the best value? Probably not, right? I think the best value in comics has got to be the thick trade paperbacks, sometimes referred to as complete collections, but I'm actually going to show you a few. We're going to do a couple of overviews, but these nice thick boys, I think these are the best value in comics, the best bang for your buck, the most story for the least amount of money. That's how we're quantifying these things. So what I wanted to do was show you a few of these, like I said, sometimes they're branded as complete collections, but not all the time. And then Marvel also has this line, which is called the Epic Collections line. These are each of these books I just showed you have come out in the last 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm going to do some quick overviews and talk to you about the content of the stories. And I'm going to tell you how much you're getting in each of these books and exactly how much you'd be paying for them. So before we get into those overviews, huge thanks to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending these so that I could showcase them for you. And if you're interested in grabbing any of these as I'm talking about them, you can grab them at our channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. Information is going to be down below, including a discount code so that you can get even more bang for even fewer bucks. Let's dive in though. So I wanted to show an example or some examples of why I think these thick trade paperbacks are the best value in comics. And so I feel like there's not really a better example than something like this. This is the August 1961 trade paperback collection. Now, if you're not familiar, Marvel for the last couple of years has been doing these collections. I call them the timestamp collections, the time capsule collections. But basically, this is all of the comics published by Marvel in August of 1961, including perhaps their most famous comic produced then, which was Fantastic Four, issue number 1. So if you want to kind of go back in time and see what all came out back then or what publishing looked like back then you've got this. This has a cover price of $49.99. This collects issues of Kathy, Life with Millie, Patsy Walker, Tales to Astonish, Kid Cult Outlaw, Journey into Mystery, Love and Romances, Linda Carter's Student Nurse, Gunsmoke Western. Did I say the Rawhide Kid already? I don't know. I'm getting lost, but teenage romance. So the type, sort of like slice of life, things that we might associate with like Archie comics now, Marvel was doing then. And they were doing that a lot more than they were doing superheroes. As you can see, the world's first superhero family shows up in the kind of in the middle of all this. And of course, you know, the rest is history. Superheroes kind of take over the world slowly but surely after this. Well, at least the world of Marvel. And no, Marvel didn't invent superheroes. Superman had been around 20 years at this point. But that wasn't Marvel's business. They were like real life storytellers, so to speak. And so I think it's cool to see what Marvel was publishing back then. But these sort of time capsule books, Marvel started doing them, like I said, a couple years ago. And when they started doing them, they were all done in the omnibus format. So if you wanted to check out, every Marvel comic published in August 1961, you had to buy an omnibus. And for some people, that's a tough sell, right? Like $150 cover price for a book like that. And, it's fun as a novelty. There's definitely good stories in here. You get to read Stan Lee and Jack Kirby doing stuff that is not superheroes, right? So that's really cool. But at the same time, it's like, well, how much are we really going to, revisit some of this stuff? Does it make sense to have this big hardcover tome? Maybe, maybe not. But this is a more accessible format and a more affordable format. $49 for all those contents as opposed to $150, which is what the omnibus retailed for. And then you factor in something like, our channel sponsor. You can get these books for 20, 30% off the cover price, sometimes even more. So all it takes is being willing to, maybe sacrifice a little bit in terms of format. I know people that watch my channel love the omnibus format, and I am one of those as well. But I tell you what, man, I have, just by letting go of my omnibus snobbery, been able to see like some really, really cool stories that in some cases there's not enough of them for an omnibus. In other cases, they weren't popular enough and stuff like that. So it's been really cool. So for me, the stuff I'm into, at least from back in the day in comics, like I like seeing Western comics. I like seeing crime comics and detective stories and stuff like that. So that stuff is fun. But I don't know if I would have bought this $150 version of this. So really cool. Life with Millie. I don't know. When I think of Marvel, I think of superheroes. I think of Spider-Man and Daredevil and Captain America. I don't think of this. And so it's really cool to see that Marvel was doing that. And you even get like editorial, like prose stories. Like, it's just cool. Again, like to sort of take a trip and go through the time capsule and see exactly what Marvel was doing back then. And it's funny because it makes something like this seem like even more groundbreaking. Like, we know that these stories became classics and fan favorites, but it seems way more groundbreaking when you see it in the context of all the stuff that was coming out at the time. Like, this makes Jack Kirby and Stan Lee look like absolute geniuses, especially now we've got movies coming out featuring these characters and all that stuff. So anyway, that's just one example of the thick trades, and I think is a good example of how you can get a lot of value without breaking the bank. So let's slide this off to the side and I will show you a few more examples. So here's another one. This is the Savage Avengers by Jerry Duggan, Volume 1. Again, it's a thick trade. Some people refer to these as complete collections. Marvel doesn't always brand things as complete collections, but I remember this because my first day in comics was Free Comic Book Day 2019. And Free Comic Book Day 2019, this was one of the books, the previews that I picked up. So this is basically the whole point of this team. It's a superhero or a super team full of anti-heroes. We got Punisher and Elektra and Wolverine and Venom and Conan, like, and that guy, because I don't know that guy's name. The most vicious team of anti-heroes in the Marvel Universe assembles. Dr. Voodoo. He did not look like Dr. Oh, guess you're right. That was Dr. Voodoo. My viewing angle's off. Maybe we'll blame it on that. Well, this collects Savage Avengers 1 through 12, the first annual, the 0 issue, and the free comic book day issue, or some of the material from the free comic book day issue. So all of that, it rounds up to about 14, 15 issues for $45. That's not a bad price at all. Now, this book was super popular. This got an omnibus release not too long ago as well. And people were clamoring for this. This was the cover to the omnibus, by the way. Love David Finch. But people were clamoring for that omnibus because Marvel has recently lost the rights to Conan, to publish Conan as a character in comics. And so the concern was that you would not be able to read this story in any format if you did not buy the omnibus. It wasn't available on Marvel Unlimited. I don't even think you could buy it on Comixology anymore. But somebody could correct me if I'm wrong. But Conan was disappearing, and people thought this was one of those stories that was just going to be lost to the era. And I'm sorry for that glare on this page. But it's not going anywhere. But anyway, people thought it would be a lost story, and it's not. You can get this in the trade paperback. And so you don't have to pay crazy prices for that omnibus, which is now out of print. Patience saves pockets. It's something I like to say a lot. Okay, now it's a lot more clear that that's Dr. Voodoo. I always want to say Brother Voodoo. That's his old name. It's not his name anymore. So again, this is also good if you want to just test out the story. What if you decide, okay, I don't want to read 40 issues of Savage Avengers. Maybe I just wanted to try out the first 2 story arcs. Well, you can do something like that and not feel like, you broke the bank for a story that you weren't sure you were going to love. So that's another great example. This is something I'm really excited to check out. We got Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, and Conan all in one book. And if you like this series, Jerry Duggan wrote this. I want to say it's like 36 issues or so. But Jerry Duggan wrote this the whole way through. And then when this ended, there was another series written by David Pepose. I think that went 6 issues as a sort of send-off to Conan, helping him get out of the Marvel Universe. So that's cool. But anyway, we even get, what are these extras? There's clearly older stories in here. Chris Claremont, a retelling of the Kulan Gath saga. Interesting stuff. I didn't know that was collected. I feel like I didn't read that on the back of the thing. So stuff like that, like I didn't see that in here before, but there it is. So very cool stuff. Another great value for your money. Let's look at some more recent stuff. This one, actually, we'll talk about both of these. So right here, I've got the Fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of 10. And I've also got the Reign of X Volume 1 by Jonathan Hickman. These trade paperbacks kind of serving as bookends to an era. Maybe not bookends. So technically what comes before the Reign of X Volume 1 is actually House of X and Powers of 10, which again is the story that got me into comics in the summer of 2019. But basically, House of X Powers of 10 kind of establishes the new rules for mutantdom and the fact that they are living on the island nation of Krakoa. That's all I will say about House of X Powers of 10. You need to read that. But once you read that, this is what immediately follows it. So this is where the story goes right after House of X and Powers of 10. I gotta move this light. Like, that's kind of better. That's a little bit better. So yeah. Anyway, House of X Powers of 10 sets the stage for this. Mutants are living on Krakoa, and the rest of the world has to accept it. Like, yeah, mutants are always going to be hated and feared, but Krakoa is a state. It's being made such by the United Nations. And so people got to fall in line. Mutants have immunity. Mutants have sovereignty on their sovereign nation. And so everybody's got to fall in line. And this is kind of how it's showing how life is going, both on Krakoa and in different parts of the world, how they're governing themselves, what just the politics of the day and the area look like. And of course, everything can't be all, sunshine and roses. There's got to be threats coming from somewhere. So we see the rise of Orcus in here, sort of the resurgence of Orcus, if you will. We see other threats, like we see the Brood over the course of this run. Summoner, which we find out is from Araco. So we see a lot of different sort of signs of things to come that I won't spoil, because the Hickman era runs like 21 issues in just the main title. And then we get more stuff that spins out of that. The Ten of Swords and the what else happened after that? Hellfire Gala, all that stuff. But the seeds of everything start here. Here's issue 3, one of my favorites. We get this random supervillain team called the Horticulture. You know that plant life is really big, really important to Krakoa. And this is a team of the Golden Girls, basically, who are coming to try to take advantage of Krakoan plants and medicines and all these things. So interesting stuff. So interesting stuff happens there with the Horticulture. Another one of my favorite issues of this run was issue 4. Issue 4 of X-Men, again, kind of helped set the stage for the global politics of Krakoa. And while Charles and Magneto and Apocalypse are out there trying to settle things in the boardroom, so to speak, we've got Cyclops on a mission, because you know that humans just can't leave well enough alone. They're gonna try to shoot their shot, quite literally. And so we see Cyclops on this mission at the same time that Charles Xavier and Magneto are on a mission of their own. And it gives like this perfect, like, don't mess with the mutants moment. We see appearances from the Vault. This book collects issues 1 through 9 of Jonathan Hickman's time on X-Men. Also collects Giant Size X-Men Storm, Giant Size X-Men Jean Grey and Emma Frost, and Giant Size X-Men Nightcrawler. Actually, I don't see Giant Size X-Men Storm listed in here. Interesting. Some really cool stuff happened there. So hopefully you guys get that in a future volume. But love some of these extras, some of these variant covers. Let's see what extras are in here. Or is it all story? Nope, it's not all story. We get variant cover galleries. Man, I had like every cover to X-Men #1. That's a cool cover for X-Men 3, X-Men 4. Ooh, I had this one for X-Men 5 too. You won't get me to talk bad about the Krakoa era. So you see kind of how the Krakoa era began. All right, so quick lighting change, and let's get into the next book. This is The Fall of the House of X, Rise of the Powers of 10, trade paperback, written by Jerry Duggan and Kieran Gillen, art by Lucas Wernick, R.B. Silva, Luciano Vecchio, Brian Valenza, Daniel Curiel on colors. Lots of names in this book. Now, if you have not read at least Hickman's X-Men, but honestly, Hickman's X-Men is like 1 year of the Krakoa era. Then we had, what else did we have? We had a whole nother run of X-Men with Jerry Duggan that took place over a couple of years. We had Immortal X-Men by Kieran Gillen. We had X-Men Red by Al Ewing. So we had a lot of different X books, and this book is the culmination of like 5 years of X-Men storytelling, from the beginning of the Krakoa experiment with House of X and Powers of 10 all the way up until now. Now this collects the Fall of the House of X, issues 1 through 5. Rise of the Powers of 10, issues 1 through 5, and material from X-Men issue 35, also known as Uncanny X-Men issue 700. If you have not read the Krakoa era at all, I almost don't even want to show you this. Like, I almost want you to turn away from this overview. But basically what you need to know is that there's a lot of stuff that was set in motion way back in this Fall or House of X Powers of 10 era. It was Orcus, trying to make a move against the X-Men. And we had seen glimpses of like this whole idea of a fight between mankind, mutant hood, and machinery. And all of that sort of comes to a head in this 10 issue miniseries. There are a lot of people who by this point in the timeline are very different than they were 5 years ago, as far as publishing is concerned. And there's a lot of stuff going on. I mean, there's things with Moira and Nimrod, the Omega Sentinel, Orcus, Dr. Gregor. Of course, Cyclops is forever changed. Professor X is very different. He's got some very different things going on. So a couple of things happening. In the fall of the House of X, it's basically the action-packed series that you would expect to see when it's like the mutants and Orcus, the chickens are coming home to roost in a way. And so we're seeing a lot of high action stuff. Meanwhile, Cyclops is on trial, and that's where it starts out, with Cyclops on trial. And he's like, hey, I'm going to go through this trial. I'm not going to break out of these chains, almost in a messianic type way, like almost like a Jesus type thing. Like, I'm not going to break out of here because I already know once this trial is done, the purpose that we were here to serve is going to be served. All hell is going to break loose. And that's exactly what happens. Meanwhile, thanks to a lot of stuff that's been going on with Moira over the course of the Krakoa era, we find that in order for us to really prevent, mass casualty and just crazy stuff that would happen in the timeline, we got to go back in time and stop Moira. When are we going to stop her? I don't know. Good question. So really interesting stuff. These 2 series, 10 issues, are meant to be read as one. And as you can see, it's broken up in the collected edition into chapters. It doesn't even, you're not even seeing which chapters or which book is which in here. It's just chapter 1 through 10, which is cool. That's just like a Hickman thing with his collected editions. But I'll skip to the back a little bit. Love Phil Noto's artwork in this. But anyway, flip to the back so you can see some of the extras. And here is this beautiful design by Tom Muller. I don't know if it's Muller or Mueller, but either way, he had been the designer of all of this era of X-Men. So we get some excerpts from X-Men 35, this being the Chris Claremont story that was in that sort of anthology celebration type issue. And then we get the cover gallery. So we got the connecting covers for Fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of 10 issue 1. More Fall of the House of X #1 variants. I do wish all the connecting variants were kind of on the screen together or in a section together. And then we got the rest of these sort of gallery thumbnail pages. But a lot of cool stuff in here, lots of extras. If you did not read the Krakoa era as it was coming out, boy, you are in for a treat. I think, of course, it does have its peaks and valleys, but overall, I think it was well done. And I do think this event wraps things up well, especially when you read it all together and you're not, constrained to the publishing schedule like I was when this stuff was coming out in single issues. So check this out. Cover price is $50, but you can get it for less on the interwebs. Next up, a complete collection. Well, this isn't branded a complete collection. That's basically what it is. This is Shang-Chi by Luen Yang. We got artwork in here by D.K. Ruan and Marcus To, among others. This collects several Shang-Chi series that have their roots from way, even as I was first getting into comics. The Shang-Chi 2020 series, issues 1 through 5. Then they rebooted it in 2021, and that went 12 issues. Then we did another reboot, Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings, issues 1 through 6. Then we got a big sort of oversized special Shang-Chi, Master of the Ten Rings. And then there's some material in here from Marvel Voices Identity issue from 2021. Jean Luen Yang writes all of it. DK Ruan, Philip Tan, Marcus To, Michael YG, Sebastian Chang, Triana Farrell, Eric Artenega, Sunny Go, and Proto Bunkers Domo Sanchez Almara, handling colors, letters, inks, all the things. This one is a little bit more expensive at $54.99, but I just rattled off like 24 issues that are included in here, so no surprise there. This I'm actually really excited to get into. I remember grabbing the first Shang-Chi miniseries a few years ago, and I didn't realize it spun out into so many other things. What I think is a real treat to look at is Marcus To's artwork. Marcus To is now doing art on X-Force. And I don't know, Marcus To's art with the writing of Jeff Thorne and just drawing mutants and crazy world building situations is just really fun to look at. So having his art on most of this book is really cool to look at as well. What I love about Marvel in general is how different characters will pop up. And I think the second Shang-Chi series that we get in this book is basically like Shang-Chi versus the Marvel Universe. So we see a lot of different appearances. Amazing Spider-Man, Captain America making appearance. Get some cool kaiju action here. The Fantastic Four making appearance in here. So lots of stuff going on. Shang-Chi kind of becoming a part of the Hand in a way, or at least interacting with them. What's funny is, Jean Luen Yang kind of did this, a lot of this character building with Shang-Chi, and it kind of felt like it was off to the side. But then when Shang-Chi later shows up in the gang war in the Spider-Man office, I'm like, dang, I should have been reading all the stuff that he was doing in here, because there's a lot has changed with the status quo of that character. So really cool stuff, like street level New York stuff, but with the mystical kung fu flair, almost the way you might expect from like Iron Fist, which is very interesting. Very interesting indeed. But anyway, let's stop thumbing through so I don't spoil anything. Let's look and see if there's any sorts of extras. We got character guides, character designs, design variants, a cover gallery. So really, really nice stuff. I love that cover. So that's Shang-Chi by Jean Luen Yang. And that's out everywhere. $54.99 cover price. Now, those were all of the sort of thick trades and complete collections that I wanted to show off. But I did tease in the intro that Marvel also has this line that plenty of people are familiar with. These are the Epic Collections. And what the Epic Collections do that no other line does is they're basically collecting everything that you know from a character in the order it happened with, right? So this is the Amazing Spider-Man volume 21. Cover price on this is $50. Collects through issues 334 through 350 of the Amazing Spider-Man, plus the original graphic novel Spider-Man Spirits of the Earth by Richard Vess. And this is really cool because, again, to that point that I made earlier about time capsules, like if you really want to see what Spider-Man was like in, 1991 to like 1994, this was it. And it's funny because I forget a lot of the times that comic books weren't coming out monthly, every single month, all the time. Sometimes comics were coming out bi-monthly, once every other month. And so sometimes these Epic Collections, they really are like multiple years of storytelling for a particular character. And this stuff, this 90s and 80s, or this is early 90s stuff, but this is the stuff that reminds me of this is the era right before I would have known what comics were. So a lot of the stuff that I got into was even more extreme than this, back with the advent of computer coloring and just kind of over rendering and the things. But this era to me seems to be defined by the inking styles. Like this is clearly like a post McFarlane take, and we get like, especially with Aunt May, just wrinkles on wrinkles on wrinkles. That lady is old. So that's fun to look at, fun to watch. But it's really cool to just kind of get a blast from the past and look at bygone eras of storytelling. Look how much hair. Look at all, like Mary Jane's hair is the panel. There's no panels here. It's just Mary Jane's hair. But anyway, so that's really fun. This is a great way to get a bunch of story without spending a ton of money on an omnibus. Or if you're like me and you collect omnibus, sometimes I get scared away by volume numbers. Like there's like volume 6 of The Amazing Spider-Man out right now. And then we get, I love that page. But then we get, Spider-Man by David Michelinie and Todd McFarlane, then David Michelinie and Eric Larson, then David Michelinie and Mark Bagley. And we got so much Spider-Man, and it's like, where do I jump in? Where do I jump out? Do I just grab the David Michelinie stuff? Do I grab all 19 Spidey Omnis that are out right now? Do I just jump into Ultimate? Well, with Epic Collections, you don't necessarily have to make that decision because it's not as expensive. $50 for one of these, you still get a great chunk of storytelling. And if you decide, I love this character, I'm gonna dive into this character, this is my guy from now on, well, then you've got the option to jump in. I mean, this is nearly 500 pages of Spider-Man for $50. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. And of course, you can get these a little bit cheaper if you go with our channel sponsors. So I won't thumb through all of these, but very recent releases, the Deadpool and Cable Epic Collection Volume 1, collecting the very beginning of that series, Fabian Nicieza, Patch Zerker in that one. We've got Epic Collection Volume 20 from the Fantastic Four from 1989 and 1990. Walt Simonson, Louise Simonson. This is Into the Time Stream. And I tell you what, Walt Simonson drawing anything, like, this stuff is classic. This stuff looks great. So, again, for some of these characters we grew up with watching on TV but didn't necessarily grow up with in comics, these are a great way to jump in to those stories. So that's really cool. Collecting 334 through 346, the annual issue 23, New Mutants annual 6, X Factor annual 5, and X-Men annual 14. $50 cover price. Can't beat it. And then this one, the Deadpool Epic Collection, Johnny Handsome. This collects the entire run of Deadpool by my favorite living comics writer, Christopher Priest. Ruben Diaz on storytelling as well, doing like art and whatnot. I think they co-plot a lot of this stuff together. But this does collect everything in order. So even though Christopher Priest is the main name on here, there's other stuff that happened, other appearances of Deadpool that take place before the Priest run starts in earnest, including Contest of Champions and some issues of Wolverine. So that stuff's in here too before the Priest run officially starts at Deadpool number 34. And, if you read Quantum and Woody, then like you'll know why Priest does Deadpool, and you'll kind of have an idea of the type of humor that would show up in Priest's Deadpool. But I said I wasn't going to do complete overviews of all this stuff. I just had to shout this one out because, again, Priest is my favorite living comic writer. I really love the quick-wittedness of his stuff. His stuff is always funny, always smart, and if I'm honest, underrated. So anyway, I take Deadpool in doses, but I could take Christopher Priest in droves, if that makes any sense. So cool stuff there. Again, nice little time capsule. $44.99 being the cover price on this. And this does cross over with Black Panther. Priest was writing Deadpool and Black Panther at the same time, to quote a Future lyric. So 1999 and 2000, very good time for Deadpool and Black Panther comics. So that's going to do it. That's my overview, and that's my pitch for these Marvel thick trades being some of the best deals in comics. Like, again, for an average price of $5 an issue nowadays, these epic collections, collecting well over 20 issues in some cases for $50, that's a steal. Like, really, really cool stuff. So if you're considering dipping your toe into some Marvel comics, I think these are a great way to do that, and you won't be disappointed. So check out our channel sponsor, Organic Price Books. If you're looking for more, you can use the code BJKicks at checkout to save $2 on 1 to 3 books. Or if you're buying a huge stack like this, 4 books or more, you can go to use BJKicks Ship It Together at checkout. And that's going to do it for this video. Huge thanks to Marvel for sending these off for me to showcase. And I'll see you guys in another one soon. Till then, stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.